So yeah, Pascal Siakam. Not a great series for him. Of course, Siakam has surpassed any expectations you would have for him based on his first couple of years in the league. But he does have a max contract extension, so he's been thrust into that role of, can you be the guy that we can lean on in a big playoff series, big playoff games, all that sort of thing. And we learned in this series, as of right now, Siakam, he doesn't have it, okay? And we're going to end up talking about the Raptors as a whole and their whole situation, but I mainly want to start with Siakam. So I think the main thing is his ball handling. It's simply not good enough. I mean, he has improved, certainly. I mean, based on his second year into his third year, that was pretty big. And then this year, he was doing a little bit more. A lot of times it would still lead to a spin move, and it's not like he was beating people with crossovers or whatever, but there was a little more to his ball handling. I think he's just got to go to another level with it. I feel like for Siakam to really be that dude, which, hey, you know what? It's okay if you're not that guy, but you still have to be better than what he was against the Celtics in this series. I mean, he only had one game where he really went off like that. The rest of the time, the Celtics, whether it was putting just a good defender on him, whether it's Marcus Smart, Tatum, or Jalen, daring him to beat them on post-ups and not sending the extra defender for the obvious assist, although they did it occasionally. And, Siakam, he just couldn't handle it, couldn't get by guys, that sort of thing. So he's got to improve on all that stuff. I think those are the two big ones, is more isolation skills, improving on his pull-up game, and then getting a bit better in the post. Maybe he has to get a little bigger to do this, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if Siakam is not going to do that, then he's going to be still good. I mean, again, he has to be better in the playoffs, but, he did still average 23 and 7 this year, and you could argue that he was the most improved player again, so I think that's worth remembering. I mean, I don't know about every, but a lot of stars have that playoff moment where it's like, what are they going to do from here, basically? Are they going to kind of stagnate, or are they going to come into the next season with an improvement, reading the game better, that sort of thing? And I think we got to give Siakam that chance. I mean, I know in the moment it doesn't look great for him, but we must remember it was only last season that Pascal Siakam became the darling of the NBA for, everything that he did. And defensively, he's still very good. So all we can do is wait and see. He's not super young. He is in his mid-20s. So it's not as if this is some 22, 23-year-old star. This is a guy who, if he's going to become that guy, you'd hope that he does it within the next 2 seasons rather than it taking 3 or 4 years or whatever. So, yeah, and to reiterate again, he doesn't have to be one of the 10 best players in the NBA or anything, but you just have to be better than what he was in this series against Boston. Do I think Siakam can keep making a huge jump? Maybe not a huge one, but I think we'll definitely see him with some sort of an improved game going into next season, whatever. Anyway, if we look at the Raptors as a whole, they are in an interesting spot because, and I did mention this a little bit at the end of the video I did yesterday, they could just run it back if they wanted to. I mean, you could re-sign Van Fleet and Ibaka. You've got Lowry for next season, and you could just try again, pretty much, and bank on Anunoby getting a little better, Siakam getting better. But then I think 2 questions come up. The first one is, how much is all this going to cost? And is it going to kind of strip us of anything else we can do in the future, free agency, that sort of thing? And the second thing is, and to be fair, this kind of just goes with what I just said, are we locking ourselves into being a very good team without the potential of becoming an elite team? Because while I guess it's possible Toronto could be in some sort of trade talks if a star becomes available or whatever, the obvious way for them to get an elite guy is through the 2021 free agency. And, right now they're committed to $46.5 million that season. If we say if you re-signed Van Fleet for 20, we'll say if you kept Lowry for 20 for that season, and then you extended Anunoby, and we'll say that's like $15 million, that puts you with about $20 million in cap space for the 2022 season, which would not be a max slot. And I guess the one way that you could free up that little extra money would be if they got off of Norman Powell's contract. Norman Powell is a good player. There's reason to want to keep him. I mean, we're going to have to see. Like, if they really do sign Van Fleet and they still want to get a max guy and they still wanted to keep Lowry, then at that point, Powell's money just becomes the obvious thing that you got to find a way to get out of, because they're definitely not giving up Anunoby. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Now, I did mention there that I think Van Fleet could get about $20 million a year. If you start looking at the teams who have cap space, the obvious one is the Knicks for him, right? Because they've got all those team options. They're going to decline all of them. I think the Pistons are a possibility. And then after those two teams, there's no more obvious ones, in my opinion. So, for whatever that means. And I did also mention Powell there as the guy who may have to be forced out if the Raptors wanted to keep all their main dudes, but I think Powell's also pretty decent insurance. You know, if Van Fleet is gone this offseason because somebody just gives him a contract you're not willing to keep, or match, then Powell's pretty good. I mean, he was a 20-point scorer through stretches of this season. But of course, there is a chance that Masai also gets a little wild with this whole thing and looks to move some dudes. Basically, I'm getting at, would they trade Kyle Lowry? I mean, I feel like you could argue that Lowry at this point has become kind of a dude that you just have to keep forever for the sake of the franchise, or I don't know. It's kind of that sentimental thing that matters in sports in terms of the way you're viewed around the league and the way you treat your guys. And also, Lowry's still good. I mean, he's done a good job of maintaining himself. He's 34, going to be about 35 when the next season begins. And, I mean, maybe he's not going to be 19 points a game Kyle Lowry, though he could be. Do you think that a 35, 36-year-old Lowry can't still give you like a solid 15 and 7 and good defense or whatever? I feel like it's a fair thing to expect. And it also means you might be able to re-sign him for not as much money after next season. But if they were going to move him, I do think you could get something pretty good. I don't know exactly what, but any team that's looking to make a jump and needs a little bit more ball handling and whatever else, they'd certainly give you something for Lowry. But again, there's very good reasons to keep him around. I mean, you know, when I think about it, like, let's say Van Fleet is gone, okay? Somebody else gives him too good of an offer, no way Toronto can match, all that stuff. If their starting lineup next year is Kyle Lowry, Norman Powell, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, and let's say they re-signed Serge Ibaka, who was pretty damn good against the Celtics, right? He's only 30. I mean, he's still got probably 3 or 4 good years left of being the center who can stretch the floor and shoot in the post a little bit, and he's still good defensively. I'm sure they let Gasol go. Although I will say with Ibaka, his free agency is going to be interesting as well, because I imagine Toronto would want to keep him for a lot less than his current $23 million, and I don't know how Serge would feel about that. I mean, that's a good team, headed by Nick Nurse still, and Terrence Davis is still here, and he was an all-rookie team guy, even if I didn't put him there initially. Matt Thomas you could keep around and have him get more minutes as a shooter. Like, this team should still be good next season. And then again, just from Van Fleet being gone, they would probably have a little bit more room in free agency to get somebody, whoever it would be. It could be, a Gordon Hayward. It could be Giannis. It could be Paul George. Whatever it would be, right? And then that could be your way to just kind of keep this Raptors thing going. Now, of course, I'm being very optimistic for the sake of the video, but realistically speaking, do we think the Raptors are going to end up with some superstar player after the 2021 offseason? I mean, the odds suggest no. But that does not mean that you should give up as a team or blow it up or whatever. Why would you get worse for the sake of getting worse, I mean, we saw what happened with the Kawhi move. It was a team that remained good, very good, whatever you want to say. Star player finally wanted out, and there you go. You jumped on it. I mean, could they take advantage of the Oladipo situation? Maybe. Any guys who are rumored to be on the trade market, I think Toronto could definitely consider going for. As far as their assets, I mean, I guess Norman Powell would be an asset. I think Terrence Davis is one, although he doesn't make much money, so his contract wouldn't help. They don't really have the big, $14 million expiring on a guy who they don't need type of deal. So I guess that makes it a little tougher. But they could be in some sort of trade. They do have all the draft picks moving forward. So, yeah, I would say Toronto is looking okay. They're looking pretty good. I think they can be a good team next season, even if Van Fleet is gone. And I think Ibaka is kind of an underrated dude to consider keeping. And they can still have the cap space for the 2021 free agency, which is when they could really strike on a guy. So, yeah, that's what I got on Toronto pretty much. If you made it this far, like and subscribe. I feel weird saying that, but I probably should. It makes sense from a YouTube standpoint, even if I feel a little gross. That's it.